to walk around, please check out our nightlife tattoo shop in the corner. There's also 10 tattoos available. We have a museum of craft and design, doing puddle flash, casting. But I know you're all here for coffee, so I'm gonna turn it over.
First off, thank you so much, Lynn and Richie, the whole Nightlife crew. Thank you, all of you, for coming. Also, thanks to the squid professor, who's been out here somewhere. It's a tough act to follow, and I don't have videos of giant squid, but hopefully we're okay. In my 25 years of tattooing, I've really made an effort to, at any opportunity, to speak at any university or any museum. Just, like I felt like, I guess that was part of like, our generation, our mission was to get tattooing seen in a better light. This place is very special to me because I grew up in Davis, so my parents used to bury me here. In fact, my mom's right there. Thanks, Mom. Woo! Well, I was disappointed to hear that that's a different albino alligator, but anyhow. I'd also like to recognize Dr. Greg Tebori over there because he actually hired me to curate the 2 museum exhibitions that I've done, and he's also tattooed. And then my wife over there just because she's awesome. I think I wanted to get tattooed from pretty much as long as I can remember. When I was a kid, I used to watch like this one Japanese TV show, and the hero would show his tattoo at the end, and I just thought it was really cool. And I think just growing up Japanese American, and it just felt like some sort of connection with Japan, cultural identity and whatnot, and there was a bit of rebellion thrown in there as well. So it's kind of like, hitting in all cylinders. In 1998, I went to Japan to get my back tattooed. And that was an experience that profoundly changed my life. I was already tattooing then, and I became a member of the tattoo family and started studying with a Japanese master. And that's also when I met Horitomo, who was right there. We were brothers in the family. We became fast friends. I believe he's easily one of the brightest, young tattooers in the world today. 15 years ago, we petitioned for his visa to come work in the United States as a person with storied talent. So I've had the honor of working with him for 15 years. So tonight, I'm going to be talking for a little bit. He's going to provide some ink and then do the Tebori demonstration, which will continue after the talk. All right, okay, so we're going to give you like a really basic crash course in Japanese tattoo history. So the Jomon period, 10,000 to 5,000 BC, there's a lot of pottery. This is a Goju doll. Figurines that have markings that many people feel represent tattoos. This thing also did make it on the Ancient Aliens. And astronaut. So it's possible that maybe if there weren't Japanese people, they were just astronauts, but yeah. But these are diagrams of other pottery things that came through from that period. There's actually really interesting, there's a group of young Japanese tattooers doing something called the Jomon Project, where they're actually taking these and tattooing them on people. And so if you look, I'm sure you can kind of find it on social media, but it's pretty interesting. Here's another example. There is a speculation as to whether or not these markings are tattoos, because in theory it could be artwork, it could be body paint, scarification, whatnot. But the reason we tend to believe that they are tattoos is because the very first time the Chinese visited Japan, they called it the land of Wa, and they said that the people are tattooed on their faces and on their arms according to their rank. Which I think is also in line with a lot of hunter-gatherer society type tattooing back then. It's my belief that tattooing has existed in every continent, in every country, in every culture. The places that don't have it is usually because of a religion or a colonizer or a government or some form of suppression. But as we talk about this, you'll see that tattooing in Japan went through many different phases. So that would be this is all way 5,000 BC type stuff. So when we talk about Japanese tattooing today, what we're talking about was developed during the Edo period, which is 1603 to 1868. So a real quick Japanese history lesson, prior to 1603, Japan was a bunch of feudal kingdoms, warfare all the time, samurai, all that good stuff. There was a great unification campaign, and in 1603, Japan became one nation. So becoming a nation, it allowed for a peacetime thing, emergent class developed, popular arts developed. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with stuff like woodblock prints, kabuki theater, and Japanese tattooing. That all developed during that time. And I really, this print is by Yoshitoshi, which is probably one of the most famous woodblock artists. But as you can see, like this woman is getting a name tattooed on her. So yeah, people got names, and it did hurt. But what I really like about this is like it goes through practice. At that time in Japan, like there was a lot of arranged marriages. Love wasn't always a factor in pairing people. A lot of it was familial gain and whatnot. There was a class system in place with the samurai tops and everything. So for a lot of people, like these sorts of like relationships and like the pleasure districts and courtesans were kind of like the only thing for true love. There's a thing called iremotro, these love dots, and like it'd be like like you and your partner would each get a dot. You held hands to kind of connect, that kind of stuff. So I like to think that that's where Japanese tattooing came from. But there also is another area. This is called irezumi. When I first started tattooing in the 90s, irezumi was still kind of a weird word in Japan. There were tattoo artists that wouldn't use it, and the reason is because this irezumi was a government practice of marking criminals against their will. So if you got convicted of something, they would put a mark on you. Irezumi literally means insertion of ink, like ire, put in, sumi, ink. So there's, early on, like in the 90s when I started getting involved with this stuff, there were tattooers that shied away from the term because they felt that it kind of like, looked like a darker period in tattoo history. But it can't be ignored. Here's some more diagrams. You can also see like, there's facial ones as well. I can't remember which Kurosawa film it was, but there's one where the bandit has like a character on his forehead, so he wears like a headband to cover it. And actually, this is kind of interesting. So this is a woodblock print depicting the process. And I think, needless to say, like that's barbaric, and I can see why tattooers didn't want to use the word irezumi. But in this time in history, I think irezumi just has come to mean Japanese traditional tattooing. So this is an example of a first offender and a mark on the forehead. And then that's mark number 2. And mark number 3. So basically the Japanese kind of invented the 3 strikes rule, I think. But, I don't know, anyone read this? Anyhow, that's the character for dog. So, there are some theorists that say that Japanese tattooing was developed to cover up tattoos, namely those dark armbands you saw. I tend to disagree because, you're not going to cover that. And also, even those dark armbands, as many working tattooers know today, they're hard to cover anyways, with today's modern equipment. So, probably the biggest thing that happened to Japanese tattooing was the introduction of the Suguden stories. The Suguden was a Chinese story of 108 bandit warriors that fought against the corrupt government. So at that time, it was written, I believe, in the 15th century in China. There was a bunch of warriors that fought against the government as corrupt. It really resonated with the people. These stories were eventually translated into Japanese and brought over to Japan. And like I said earlier, Japan was living under a class system, so that idea of a corrupt government and the working class rebelling against it really resonated with the Japanese. Japanese tattooing was already kind of in full swing, and this was just like pouring gasoline on the fire. In the Chinese stories, I believe I can't remember the exact numbers, but there's a handful of tattooed ones. When the Japanese illustrated, they added a lot more tattoos, they added full body tattoos. So they really just, and I think in turn there's like the chicken and the egg. Like people saw these, they want to get more, and so on and so forth. This print is by Kuniyoshi, who I think is one of the most important woodblock print artists. When you look at it, I feel like it looks like it was made for it to be tattooed, which wouldn't surprise me because Kuniyoshi, his nickname was Scarlet Skin, and said that he had a back piece. So, but this is a Chojin. It's a really cool story. Like he's breaking into a castle through the water gate. He's got his sword, holding his sword in his mouth, ready to go battle, but these arrows will actually kill him. So this is his swan song. These bells are actually what alerted the guards to his arrival. And actually, if you go through the Suguden stories, like most warrior stories, where a lot of them aren't very happy endings. Most of them died, but heroically in battle, right? Here's another one. So And even this, like, you know, I noticed a lot of you have tattoos, but you kind of see how the layout, you know, just the vigor, it really does lend itself, like aside from the character actually having tattoos, but the actual image itself can very easily be tattooed. And to be honest, like, I still tattoo a lot of these. Like, you know, I'll redraw them or simplify them to tattoos, but I take great pride in tattooing Kunioshi. Like, I love, like, he's my favorite artist. So, you know, I think that's a lot of the base of why Japanese tattooing looks so good to me. Here's another one, Warrior Fighting a Snake. And I'd like to show the next one because this is something that Horitomo did. So, this is Horitomo's homage to Kunioshi. I know a lot of you know this, but Horitomo loves cats. So maybe about 20 years ago, he made this business card with a cat with tattoos, and that kind of opened this whole gate where he started making all these cat tattoo images. And he actually, it wasn't just that he loves cats and he loves Japanese tattoos. He felt that because at that time, and even still, a lot of Japanese society is very anti-tattoo. So kind of taking this cute little cat and putting some tattoos on him, you could sort of introduce it to a larger audience. He did this one where, you know, the cat's named Tebori on another cat and it's has some tiger stripes. And I think we posted it to Facebook and it got shared 5,000 times in the first hour. So we're like, okay, maybe we need to merchandise this or make a company. But anyhow, this is one of Horitomo's Nolan cats, and as you can see, it's heavily influenced and an homage to Kunioshi. These are all, again, Kunioshi cats. And then, in Tomo's version, each cat has different animals of the zodiac.
I know, I don't know which one I wanted the
So it's kind of his
dragon.
way of like, you know, and what I love about when Tomo does stuff like this is you kind of see that whimsy, the playfulness, but also like the cultural motivation included. So and I think that's for me like one of the biggest important things about Japanese tattooing is like, you know, maintaining that sense of history and culture and, you know, having the information translated in there. Okay, so this is a really great example of storytelling through tattoos. This is Miyamoto Musashi, considered by many to be the greatest swordsman ever in Japanese history. I think he had something like over 50-something duels that he won, which means the other guy didn't make it. This is representing his him defeating his biggest opponent, Sasaki Kojiro. They were kind of like the big rivals. And then the final showdown took place at an island. It's very like, you know, they typed up the drama, but they did it on an island so that nobody else could interfere. Musashi showed up late to rattle Kojiro, and on the way, instead of using a sword, he decided to take an oar and he carved it into like a bow pen. So here you see him holding, the reason he's holding two bow pens is because Musashi is credited in starting the Nikkei school of swordsmanship. So it said that when he was fighting a large group, he instinctively pulled out his other sword, and rather than just using one sword, he fought with two. And then other things there, you'll see like there's crabs, hermit crabs, the pines that are usually along beaches. So these are all things Horitomo's done to set the mood, and that's what I mean about like, you know, Japanese tattooing. I think it's not just pictures, but there's a culture, there's a story, and I think Horitomo especially goes to great lengths to make sure everything is accurate. And this is actually on Christian, who will be getting tattooed shortly, so you'll be able to see it in real life. And they've gotten a lot further actually than this, and it's pretty amazing. You know, this is a dragon by Horitomo. I would say in 25 years of tattooing, the dragon is probably the most common thing we've done. Like, it's just, everyone loves dragons. I think, you know, and I think it's like a universal symbol. Like, I think that even like Quetzalcoatl, like, you know, you go to all these different cultures, this idea of this dragon. One cool thing about dragons in Japan is that the firefighters that they were here used to get them. Firefighters called Kikeshi at that time. They were like a bunch of roughnecks, and firefighting in middle period Japan would be like, if this house is burning, you have to knock down all the houses around it. So, you know, and it's said that they were so tattooed that when one brigade had one member that wasn't tattooed, they wrote a whole poem about it. So, you know, I remember Ed Hardy was talking about that where, you know, like after the fire, they kind of show off their tattoos. That's swagger, but the dragon, because it's impervious to fire, became a symbol for a lot of these firefighters. And actually, on another note, it's cool because I've actually tattooed 2 different San Jose fire captains as dragons for that reason. This is an Rasensuki. It's a very powerful demon, Oni. One I'd like to kind of point out too is like, you know, if you look at the way it's laid out, you know, it's such a stoic pose, and it's like sitting there with the iron glove, and then the way Horitomo used the snake to order everything. I mean, I could look at his work for days. It's just all the little details, and you kind of get further and further into it, but. Another Momo cat, Momo cat and rat fighting there. The cherry blossoms, as many of you know, is the national flower of Japan, but it's also a warrior symbol because they bloom so brightly and they die. If any of you have been to Japan in April or around that time and seen the cherry blossoms, in person you'll understand why Japanese people are obsessed with them. It's very beautiful. Here's also more Momo cats, this time with bikinis. I guess that Tomo loves cats. So what I was going to say too is that these chest panels, it's a very unique Japanese form, but they're called hikae. And if you look through history, they used to be a lot shallower. And then now the artists are bringing them further and further out. And we're pretty sure that's because they wanted to be able to hide it with kimonos. But nowadays when people are wearing Western style clothing, you can hide it. But in any event, so these are hikae, and then we call this shichibu, 3/4 sleeve. He's got 2 snakes, skulls, and a hanya mask. And then you'll notice that one snake has an open mouth, one snake has a closed mouth. I'm sure if you go to a temple, you'll notice that with the lions or the boxes out front, one open, one closed. It's Ugo Ado for beginning and end. A lot of stuff in Japanese culture is about balance, and I think we try to apply that to tattoos as well. So this is another really great one. This is a well-known cat, Fudomyo. Fudomyo is a very, probably the most popular Buddhist deity tattooed. Represents the anger of the Dainichi Nyorai. In the right hand carries a sword of custom ignorance, and then the left hand rope divine demons. Representing the anger of the Dainichi Nyorai, so this is really cool. What Tomo did was, that's the bonji up there, which is the Sanskrit character for the Supreme Buddha. So he has the Supreme Buddha, the Fudomyo's here, and then usually the Fudomyo's left hand holds a 10-step rope, but instead he has the cat holding it, kind of integrating the cat. And then those of you that have seen Fudomyo, you usually see like Seita and Kongora, the 2 attendants at the bottom, so he's representing them as cats as well. So again, like this is something where I think, you know, you take the tradition by like moving in another direction. While this would be considered something like very new, he's implemented all the factors that make it traditional. So another Fudo, sorry, this is a Oni cat. So this is Sumi. You just saw him, that's what he was writing. This was what Japanese used for calligraphy, and it's, you know, like, a lot of Japanese artists will still write it every day. You have to use it within a day or two because it will spoil because it doesn't have the same preservatives as modern tattooing. But you know, this is like, I think it creates a very rich, dense look. So everyone's looking that way because Christian's getting naked. But as you can see, Christian's added a lot more since the last time you saw the photo. So these are tattoo nomi. So you can see here, these are different handles, the shaft, and then here's our needle cartridge. And I think like most artisans, like everyone's really particular about their tools. You know, you kind of customize them yourself, you find what's comfortable. I have one with a stingray rack that Horitomo gave me. But this is a very modern type apparatus. And that's what it's put together. I'm sure many of you are aware of this coil machine. I think Thomas Edison had the first patent on a coil machine, and then Samuel Riley patented it in 1891. There's 2 magnetic coils. You run the current through it, pushes the armature bar back and forth, needle goes back and forth. In recent years, the rotaries have become more popular. So, you know, there's very, I think those are the 3 major types of influences: rotary, coil, and hand tool. Okay, so here's a comparison showing the evolution of Tebori tools. If you look at a lot of older tools, you'll notice that the handle cap is bamboo or wood. The needles are lashed on the thread. Obviously, in the days of like modern hygiene and sanitation, and what we know about communicable diseases, that wasn't going to work anymore unless you throw away the needle every time, which some people do. What a lot of artists developed was a system where there's a handle, a stainless shaft, and then a cartridge that can be discarded. And that's what Horitomo is using, so that we can do a single-use needle, which is, I think, the norm. It's all over the world now. So talking about the two major methods of Tebori, with this one, the most prevalent method, let's say you're right-handed, you would use your left hand as your stretch hand, much like with the machine, or you're going to put that down there, you'll use your thumb as your focal point, and then you poke in like that. Now, shamisen bori, this is I literally only know one artist that does this in Tokyo. But it's not as common. This is where your left hand is again stretching if you're right-handed. You're holding the needle more like a pencil. You're just kind of like, you're holding like that, and it's kind of mimic the movement of a shamisen player. I think it's kind of similar to the way the Thai people tattoo. Again, like it's not super common, but it is really cool when you do see it. Okay, Imozuki. This is when Imo is actually means potato. And so we like potato sticks. So this is basically essentially just in out, like it's a very repetitive motion. It's kind of like, where it's almost yoga.
You can't see.
It's like a potato. But it's also, it is effective though. So later we're going to have fun to show you that. Okay, Hanebari, this is probably the most prevalent method that we use. To try to explain it, so you can insert the needle in, then you do like a flick, and that kind of pulls the skin up, makes a sound, which is why the cat is freaking out. And then, then you keep repeating it. I know Adam was laughing because I did it to him. But it's like, but I can honestly say that this method, I feel that maybe because it is kind of pulling up the skin, the ink saturates so well. Like I just think I feel like it's a very effective method of tattooing. I also tattooed my wife's whole back that way, and I felt like the color is just really vibrant in a way that I don't know if you can do that with a machine. So. Oh, that's the end of the slideshow. Okay. Thank you very much. I'll bring the mic up when he's doing Hanebari so you can hear it. But in the meantime, I think we have a mic for questions somewhere. So we'll do like a Q&A if you guys want to ask anything. Okay, actually, so we're going to have Horitomo demonstrate Imozuki, the potato style.
Potato style.
Second, we're trying to move that so you can see that better.
Yeah. Mine's gonna be right here. Yeah, I think so. So I can show it off. But then I can't stare at it. I should get it right there. Yeah. My mom, I think that's a good spot.
So this is the Imozuki style. Horitomo actually told me Japanese, but tell them I don't normally use this very much. This is the Hanabari style. I think it's too loud in here, but and yeah, we'll be working on that. Yes, I'd like to welcome any questions. Anyone wants?
Hey, can we do quiet coyote so we can hear this right now? Quiet coyote? Quiet coyote. Quiet coyote.
Everyone's a lobo. Woo, woo, woo.
I'm trying to hear this thing too. If people want to hear this tattoo, quiet coyote.
It might not work. But trust me, when it's like just you and a client, the room is quiet, it's really loud. And your client will probably like kind of freak out the first time. It's very aggressive.
I can hear it right there.
But I do have a
Because of
question.
my-
How long, what's the difference in healing time between, I mean, the tattoos that we get here and this technique?
I've found that it actually, I think these heal quicker, but I think my experience with Tebori and also Takao, because I actually have a Samoan Takao as well, all the hand styles, they hurt more and are aggressive on bony areas. They kind of heal rougher, but then on like fleshy areas, they get done quicker, and they hurt a little less. But it's all pain. But it's every time. Oh, dude, I totally forgot. Hey, Charles, can you come here for a sec? I have the model for you guys. I knew there was something I forgot. One of the cool things, I remember when I first started studying Japan, my then master was making fun of me. He's like, oh, you Americans, you tattoo your neck and your hands and you show it off. And we do that last. I have a bodysuit now. Actually, I probably have like 1.5, but yeah, so I always thought it was cool, like when you walk in, you see somebody wearing a suit, or you can't see any tattoos, and then, da-da-da-da. Their shoes off, but, we shouldn't have like the quick pants, but we didn't get that far ahead. Charles did this over 5 years with me. He was pretty devoted about coming in once or twice a month. Why don't you walk up there and then... This middle form is called the Murewari, split chest. We actually started with this sleeve with Charles, and then we just kind of went from there. He has a foot on his back. Carry on for a second. This is something too that a lot of Japanese tattooers do, and it's reminiscent of woodblock printing. But we signed them with our titles on there. If you look on a woodblock print, you'll see like the artist, the publisher, and the carver, and they were always giving the carver credit. So I think it's also speculated that in the Edo period, a lot of woodblock carvers might have also been tattooers. It's like a very similar motion. They're already familiar with the material. So yeah, that was part of the tradition. And then one thing too I did with him was, so I did the Fudo really big on the back, and then the attendants on his thighs. And then I had the bottom like lotuses just because I feel like that's a holy flower, but I made the lotus almost like he was standing in lotuses. That was kind of the image I wanted to get. So, thank you. Okay, back to questions. Sorry about that. I totally forgot about that.
So with modern machines, coils, and arches, there's a bunch of different needle configurations you can get. Is that true of Tebori too, or is it just one basic needle configuration?
No, you're absolutely right. There's every needle configuration you can think of. And then for the people that line with it, it's usually one row. I know that, I've heard certain masters claim they invented the double stack or the triple stack. That's up for speculation, but I think there's also a lot of them are curved, which is similar to machine needles. You can buy curved magnets and straight magnets. But again, I think that's one of those things where there's no right or wrong. If the tattoo looks good, yeah, use whatever configuration you want. I think we, in our studio, we'll usually use about a 32.
Huh? I know. Owie, owie, owie.
Is 32 double stacked?
Triple.
I just moved here from a place that tattoos are have a lot of cultural meaning, and so as a white person in that culture, what's kind of deemed inappropriate. How do you marry having people that are not of Japanese descent having these traditional tattoos? Do you require sort of like an education that they go through to make sure that they understand the meaning of what they're getting?
That's a very good question,
Get it if you want it.
I think it's something that's constantly evolving. One thing I'd like to another history lesson here. So when Japan opened up to the West, the government was so scared of Westerners thinking Japanese were barbaric because they had these tattoos, that they made it illegal to tattoo. And then people Russian royalty, the Crown Prince of Russia was tattooed in Japan, a bunch of European royalty came over, they're like, hey, we want tattoos, we heard you guys make really nice tattoos. So then the Japanese government, being ridiculous, made it legal only for Westerners to get tattooed. So ironically, and if you look at Japanese tattooing is loved all over the world. You can literally go to any country, any continent, you will find a person of that race, of that ethnicity, of that culture, who's doing Japanese tattoos, probably has a Hori title, and loves it, right? And whether they're doing it well or not, that's up for debate sometimes. But the point is they're just really trying. And it's interesting because it's you're talking about an art form that's kind of hated in its own country, and then celebrated in other ones.
Yeah.
Now I've noticed myself, and then also a lot of my clients, a lot of Japanese Americans, they see it as a way of connecting with Japanese culture, affirmation of culture. I can tell you right now, Japanese tattooers from the first time that they had the opportunity to tattoo non-Japanese have done it. I think, so they've never had a problem tattooing non-Japanese. I think a lot of masters I've seen have taught and titled non-Japanese people. I think I think I get asked questions like that, and it's almost like people want to pass, or is it cool if I do this, kind of thing. And I just think that a culture doesn't work that way, but I think as far as we're concerned, we don't care who you are as long as you respectfully work on this. The other thing with the tattoo is that, and I'm not saying that it makes it.
Guys, I can't hear him.
One thing about a tattoo I think that is nice is that, there's a lot that goes into getting a tattoo. You don't just get this overnight, you can't just buy this, this takes a lot of time and dedication. So I think like, when we see that, like we kind of see clients more not by what race they are, but how dedicated they are to the craft. But it's a tough one sometimes. It's also stuff that like kind of offends me on a certain level, but I also think like, I just try to do what I do. And I think that kind of goes for a lot of stuff in my life. Is that, I just try to like do what I think is right. And I've been criticized by some tattooers that the books I write, the lectures I do give away too much information. But my father was an educator, I come from a certain background, and I think everything will kind of end up the way it's supposed to end up. But I think to sum it up though, the fact that you think about it and ask about it, I think is good, and I think that means you'll make good choices.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a question. Does this technique, if you were to use this technique to make a color tattoo with no black at all, does the color maybe last longer? Does it fade faster than like with modern machines? Is it about the same?
Obviously, technique all depends on whoever's doing it, but I think when it's done properly, I do think the color lasts better. And there's certain artists like Horitomo family, like they're notorious for packing in white. It's boring, it looks great. Like, it looks like house paint, So I think when done well, then I think it might last longer. I remember one thing, this one Japanese master said that like, when you get a machine tattoo, it looks best right when you do it. Then it starts to degenerate, and he feels like a Japanese, like a Tebori tattoo might look better and better for a while, and then starts to degenerate. And I think there's some truth to that. Like, I think, I remember when so my wife's back was like my first large Japanese tattoo, and it was really important to us that we did all this called like Tebori. It was a dragon, and there's like these scales, and I remember thinking like, I didn't get that scale solid. I have to go back to that one, and then by the time it healed, it was solid. Like it kept soaking in. So I think maybe I'm romanticizing, but either way, it's the same thing with like Samoa Total, like a lot of people want that experience of feeling those types of needles, thinking like things that like older time,
Thank you.